Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of In Her Shoes. We are talking all about business, scaling it, and how do you scale it without overwhelm? So I have an amazing guest, Jasmine Haley. I'm so excited to bring her on. She is here. Okay, let's see. Sent you a request, Jasmine. Hopefully this works this time. Yay!
That was seamless.
Seamless. All right. So this is take two for us because we were talking and we were on here earlier. So we'll kind of like take two. Jasmine, I'm so happy you're here. And so we met, gosh, a couple of months ago. I was like, when did we meet?
Yeah.
It's been a couple of months ago. And you are so powerful. You know what you're talking about. You've been such a resource for me. You know, I've been learning from you. You know your stuff. And I wanted to bring you on here just to talk about the scaling and scaling without overwhelm, because I think in this online world, especially now, everyone's on the internet, on Clubhouse, all the things.
Mm-hmm.
I would love for you to share some tips on like, when do we need to scale? How do we need to scale? And what does that look like? But if you want to just kind of give like a brief background of who you are for the people that are watching live and the replay.
All right. So, hey, I'm Jasmine Haley. I'm a nationally awarded speaker, podcaster, pro educator, and I'm a biz strategist. I started off my career in the healthcare field, wound up going into academia, teaching full time, wound up experiencing a severe case of burnout. And it was from a toxic work environment. So out of necessity, I went into entrepreneurship. There weren't any other full-time teaching positions anywhere near. And so from there, I took the leap, took my God-given talents and abilities and learned to monetize them. I built a successful business in the healthcare field. And in 2020, decided to pivot and focus solely on service-based entrepreneurial women. So I love helping other women achieve their goals. And I know that learning from my own life and seeing other women in my life struggle with saying what they want and going for it, I was like, this is it.
Yes. Yes. And you are so fierce, my love. I mean, you and just the content that you've been putting out is so helpful. So guys, check her profile out. Are you in the middle of a launch? You're just giving so much on Clubhouse, on all the channels, I feel like.
Yeah, so I'll have a launch that's starting next week. Oh my gosh. And yes, so you know what? I've had a conversation about this. And one of the things that I want to say, when you're scaling or when you're pivoting or rebranding yourself, amplifying your brand is necessary. Mm-hmm. Like, and if you're not sounding like a broken record and showing up everywhere, like you aren't really doing that the way that.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about, because I know some women get stuck, right?
Yes.
Women, and I don't know if it's prevalent for men, but sometimes do you feel like some women are like, oh, I feel like I'm repeating myself, or do I have to get like the visibility aspect of it? Like, what are you seeing, and what would you just say? Like, would you just say get out there? Like, is that kind of your advice?
Well, if you are a CEO of a business and this isn't a passion project and you really want to see it grow and be successful, then yes, you're going to have to get visible. And as an introvert, I had to learn that. Like, yes, I love educating and I love being in the classroom, but it was a different type of educational level and methodology I needed to learn with having an online business. Mm-hmm. And so I think, for women especially, there are many introverted CEOs. I don't think you're one. But there are many introverted CEOs that are able to show up for themselves and be able to still serve in a meaningful way.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's so important because, like you said, there's so many people, and even the people that need what you have are not going to get sick of you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like and your information like is so good because you're packaging it in a different way, and you might think you're repeating yourself, but it's so good because people are just like eating it up. And they say like people need at least like 7 times to hear something before it actually like registers, and you hear it differently like every single time.
Yeah.
So what would you what would you say, like, when should entrepreneurs scale? And like, what are like some of the first things? And I know, I guess it depends on industry and business. But can you just share like some tips that like when should they scale and what they should be looking for?
All right, that's a great question. So I actually use an acronym, and I'll share that with you today. But what I want to say as a quick disclaimer is that in textbook ways, there's different phases in business. When you're like heading towards your first 100K, that's really a growth phase and not truly a scale. But because scale is such a hot, trendy term, people just collectively put them all together.
Yeah.
So regardless of what stage you're in, whether you're like in that growth phase where you're hitting your first 6 figures, or you're heading towards multiple 6 figures and beyond, this acronym plays a role regardless. So it's OBO. OBO, so anyone that's watching, type in the chat OBO. The first thing is organization. The second is your business model. And then your third is how you outsource. So at any point in your business, you have to figure out what your roadmap is, the strategy that you're going to take to reach your goals, what they are, right? And break them down into small steps, and then put it in an organized fashion. So whether that be using a project management board, I love Asana. Everyone has their own favorite. Setting up the systems in place so that you understand how the processes work in your business, not having all the information up here. For a ton of us, right?
Yeah.
Getting to a place where you can clearly map out your client's journey. Like, all of that is organization, and really being able to clearly explain that to a 5-year-old if you needed to, right? Or 6, 7, whatever the person's age is. Then the business model, considering how is it that you're going to grow in your business. It could be a one-on-one model. It could be, and we know there's limitations with that. Yeah. We have courses, we have group, there's so many things that are out there. And I think a lot of times as business owners, we're not really clear on the method in which we're going to use to monetize our expertise. And then third is outsource. So you're going to outsource whether you're doing it physically with a person or with the tech that you have. So finding ways with your organization, which is the top tier, and then finding ways based on the areas that are necessary to help with your business growth, finding ways to maximize and leverage, either by using team members that you're hiring or using tech that will help support you. So a simple example could be like Calendly or something like that. Using, funnels through Kajabi. Those are simple examples of tech that you may outsource to, that may be a tech software, or physically hiring someone.
Where do you think entrepreneurs get stuck, like in that 3 stages? Is it like hiring? Is it the planning out the roadmap? Like, where do you find people are kind of like stuck?
I think it starts with that roadmap, honestly. So like, just think about it. If you're heading off to anywhere on the planet, right? Anywhere, pre-pandemic. What are we doing, right? We're not, like, if you've never been there, you're going to put it in your GPS, right? Before GPS, we had MapQuest, right? Or TomTom or whatever. And an actual map for those people that are older that can actually remember a map. When we actually put that out, like, we knew exactly the points that we needed to hit in order to get to our destination. That's the same exact thing that we have to do with our business. And there's so many of us that aren't looking at our annual goals, quarterly goals, monthly goals, weekly. So they're aimlessly moving all around, and they're doing things for aesthetics. Like, let me make a pretty website, let me do this and that. And none of it is really building towards profitability, but also getting you to a place where you're not sucked dry from that. So I think that's the biggest part, is not having that clear direction of where they want to go, and then therefore not having that direction leads them to doing all the things and not things that really matter.
Yeah. Things that don't really like move the needle. And
Yeah.
to your point, it's like you feel like you're overwhelmed, right? If you're doing everything kind of like sporadically, if you don't have that clear plan. Would you say that's kind of how people like burn out, like mentally, or just kind of doing all the things and not outsourcing?
Not outsourcing and not having clear boundaries.
Mm.
You know, so there's no boundaries on their personal life. There's no boundaries in business. They
Yeah.
are pretty much working nonstop. They're not blocking their time out. They're doing, they're working 12, 15-hour days, and there's no time for them. So I think like it's a combination of things. And I hate to make growth, business growth seem so menial because there's so many layers to that.
Yeah.
Honestly. But I think the biggest downfall for most entrepreneurs is not having that roadmap, understanding where you're going, and then setting up some boundaries. Like, you have to understand, like, our business and our life are like this. Mm-hmm. So if you're out of whack in your personal life, it's going to show up in your business. Like, I say this all the time, like, business is a mental, physical, and spiritual journey. I have learned so much about myself and so much of the stuff that I needed to fix and heal.
Amen.
It was manifesting itself in my business.
Yeah.
So that roadmap is essential. Obviously, that's essential. But don't forget about that part of like internally understanding the core of who you are and your strengths and your values and protecting that in business.
Yeah, and kind of, and also like what I'm hearing too, it's like values and like what you stand for, it's like, and I love what you said, like everything's so connected, everything's interconnected. So what would you say to people that, because Jasmine, there's so many systems out there, Kajabi, Katra, like there's like Acuity, Calendly, like so many systems. And when people come to you, and they're like in system overwhelm, and of course it depends on like their business, what do you say? Is it like start small? Like what kind of advice would you just give to someone that's like, just they don't know what system, if they're just going to do online courses, or maybe they're leveling up and they're on Kajabi, or they maybe want to move systems? Like what would your advice be?
My advice would be for you to write down specifically your top 3 goals. Next, write down exactly what is paining you. You're so sick of it. You're tired of it. And you know that if you were to release it off of your plate, it will allow you to be able to step into that CEO role with a clearer mind. And from there, that's where I would choose my tech, or that's where I would, set up my SOPs, my standard operating procedures, so I can delegate it off to someone. Because the thing is that there's a gajillion resources that are out there, a gazillion tech, okay? And I have the ones that I love, but it may not work for you, Kelly.
Yeah.
And it may not work for, Tuck Tuck, who's watching right now.
Right.
And everyone else. So it's really about building your business with ease and choosing something that's going to fit into your own life so that you can be the leader and that your business is not running you. And so I have my favorites, and I have things that I also know that some of my clients, that really won't work for them. So here are some other options, but make it work for you and never allow anyone to tell you this is exactly how you need to run your business. Even as a strategist myself, we get sucked into this thinking of we have to take a cookie cutter approach, and it doesn't work. You take the gems from this person. I learned from you, Kelly. I learned from other amazing people, and I look at, wow, that's amazing. Now, how can I fit this into my life? Is this something that I value as well? If not, I appreciate your time. Got to keep it moving, right?
Yes. Yes. And I love your message. So what the overarching of what I'm hearing is like, get clear, like know yourself, but take the time to get clear and like set the boundaries and do the plan, like do the groundwork first. And then also like, don't get overwhelmed, because that's your whole message, right? Like when you're building, when you're scaling, wherever you are, it's like, don't get overwhelmed, because literally you can cause yourself, like you said, like just the mental, emotional, and even physical, like not well-being, right? Like the stress.
Yeah, and it'll affect your family. If you're noticing that you're nipping at people that are asking you a simple question like, hi, how are you? How is your day? How is the weather? Like, you probably need to rest. And I feel like if you are really struggling right now and you've tried all the things and you are just mentally not in a place to handle it, you feel resentful, you feel so frustrated, my advice to you is to go take a break. Go watch some nonsense television, some reality show where everybody's screaming at each other, whatever you need to do that you don't use any of your brain capacity, and go chill out. And I felt that way. And here in 2020 with the pandemic, with me homeschooling my kids, I was so stressed. I wasn't who I wanted to be, like who I knew I was. And so I took a break and I read The Big Leap. Okay. And I realized where some of my limiting beliefs were playing a role in me in my business. And you know what I did? As soon as I rested and I got the clarity I needed, I hired, because I knew there was too much on my plate and I needed to be able to show up in a way that was meaningful and for my clients. And it's about really making an impact in our business. And we can do so by just breathing, right? Getting some rest at the same time, but getting really clear on what our goals are and tracking that. Because if you're not tracking it, then again, you're going to be aimlessly moving all over the place, and you won't be able to lead in the way that you can in the most optimal way for yourself and your team.
I love that. And you said, you know, like take care of yourself, like rest first, like, because this all can get overwhelming, you know, like growing a business, scaling it, watching what other people are doing. It can really be consuming if you allow it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So tell us kind of what you have coming up, right? For people watching live or the replay, and just your world is so amazing. I mean, I'm seeing you on Clubhouse every day. You're, you know, all the content that you're putting out is so helpful. So tell us a little bit about like your world, what you have coming up, and like this is, promote yourself, my love.
Well, you can find out more by just following me at It's Jasmine Haley on Instagram. I have a wonderful Scale Your Biz workshop that's taking place next week. We're going to be talking about how to build your confidence, how to connect systems, 3 important ways to do that, how to develop your CEO mindset and get to a place where you're serving fully. It's going to be action-packed. I don't hold back. I share a lot of value, so I highly encourage anyone to join in there. Other than that, follow me on Instagram, on Clubhouse. I have an amazing podcast and interviews, and I love connecting and showcasing amazing entrepreneurs like Kelly and so many others, because you know what? It makes the world an amazing place, right? I mean, entrepreneurship should be communal, not competitive.
Yes, 100%. And you are so good at what you do. You know, like I said before, I'm consuming the content. It's so helpful. So everyone, please check Jasmine out. She is amazing. And we're going to head over to Clubhouse, right?
Yes.
We're just gonna party hop like on the social media circuit. And we figured we kind of do this here because I know some people aren't on Clubhouse, right? And so we, you know, I didn't want to do, and I have this series In Her Shoes, and I wanted people to get more of you, you know, on camera too. So
I know it feels weird.
I know, right? Like we're going to the after party, you know?
Yes. I dressed up for it too.
Exactly. What any like last thoughts or words that you want to leave everyone with?
Oh, last thoughts. I will say this, because this was what moved me to take the leap in my business. There's a quote from Les Brown that talks about the richest place on earth. Okay. And when I learned of this, that it wasn't Dubai, it wasn't Los Angeles, it wasn't New York, it wasn't like all these other places that we know, it's actually the graveyard. And what he brought out in that quote was that many many unwritten books and scripts and innovations and ideas are resting in the graveyard because people were too afraid to move forward towards their goals. And that was the push I needed after tragically losing my mother like this. She was gone. And I realized that I was playing my life in a very small way and not being fully Jasmine. I realized that I wanted to continue to live my life with no regrets. So I don't care whether or not you tap into my resources. If you go with Kelly, that's amazing. I don't care what it is, but just choose to live your life with joy and choose to live it in a meaningful way, because the regrets that people have when they're at the end of their life is that they didn't choose to serve in an amazing way that we do. And so I want you all to keep that in mind. Any fear that comes in the way, don't let it take the driver's seat. Keep moving forward and making an impact.
Ah! Everyone, do you know why I love her? You are amazing, my love. In all ways. More ways than one. I love you so much. And you are so powerful. The content that you're providing, your energy, your vibe, everything, how you're serving people is so powerful. So I just want to say thank you for your energy and your time and just serving people today. And I would I say this in every interview, and I'm really serious, rewatch this interview, because you're gonna hear something differently. And so now we're gonna head over to Clubhouse so you can join us. We're gonna go to the after party, and we'll see you there. So thank you everyone for joining. We see you. And just, follow Jasmine and just get into her world. So, all right, everyone, talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.